Amidst the cacophony surrounding these presidential elections in the United States, if there's a single cliche that bounces around, is that this election contest between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is a very close fight. In fact, in just 2 weeks of October, analysts believe that Trump's chances are rising while Kamala's momentum is fading a little. Now, is it true that this US election is, as we are fond of saying in India, a kaate ki takkar situation? Or is it true that Trump is nosing ahead? Let's just look at the data, the results from key opinion poll aggregators. That shows that Kamala Harris was still ahead of Trump in most reliable opinion polls, and her lead in the popular vote of 3% over Trump has remained more or less intact right up to the 20th of October. But does a 3% lead in votes by a Democrat over a Republican guarantee victory in the presidential election? Will it translate into winning a majority of electoral college votes? After all, it's the electoral college that decides who will be the next president, not the popular vote. We have a separate 3-minute decoder snippet on how the popular vote gets converted into electoral votes which determine the presidency. Do watch that. To win the US presidential election, there is really no need to win a majority of the popular vote. The next president is the candidate who wins more than half of the electoral college votes. Remember, while there are about 240 million eligible voters in America, all these votes get converted into only 538 electoral college votes, and whichever candidate wins just over half of those, that's 270 of the 538 electoral college votes, becomes the next president. But there's a twist in the tale. Those millions of votes do not simply translate directly into 538 electoral college votes. Basically, the electoral college system is widely considered to be biased in favor of the Republican Party. This apparent or so-called bias effectively means that the Republicans can get 2.5% less of the popular vote and still win the presidential election. In fact, to find out exactly how the Republicans have benefited in earlier elections, you could watch another decoder snippet on exactly how the electoral college system works in America. So, Dorab, it's a very complicated system, and it goes back, 200 years or more?
Yes, it is a complicated system and an unbalanced system. Let's look at this century. Since the year 2000, 6 presidential elections have taken place. This is going to be the 7th. Republicans have won 3 of them. And only one of them, George Bush 2004, which was after 9/11, that Republicans have got more votes than Democrats.
Votes, right.
While they won presidency 3 times.
With less votes.
Right. Only, and if there hadn't been a 2004 9/11, even that
you might have, yeah.
In fact, you got to go back to the 1980s to find an election where Republicans have got more popular vote than Democrats.
But as we saw earlier, Kamala Harris seems to have the requisite 3% lead in opinion polls, so she's ahead in the popular vote. But now let's look at another forecasting barometer. That is, what is the percentage chance of winning for each candidate? Many pollsters convert their popular vote figures into a percentage chance of becoming the next United States president. This is where there have been many changes in the 2nd and 3rd week of October 2024. In those 2 weeks, pollsters suggest that the momentum is now with Trump and that Harris has a dwindling chance of becoming president. In a matter of just those 2 weeks, pollsters who gave Kamala Harris a 57% chance of becoming the next United States president and Trump only a 43% chance have now changed the probabilities considerably. Pollsters have reduced Harris's chance to just 52% and raised Trump's chances to 48%. This effectively gives Kamala Harris only a narrow 4% lead in the likelihood of becoming the next president, when only 2 weeks earlier, Trump trailed by as much as 14%. The dramatic drop in Kamala Harris's percentage chance of winning from 14 to just 4% in just 2 weeks is honestly most unusual, especially since, as we saw earlier, the poll showed her lead remaining steady at 3% in the opinion polls. So that is an unusual. You change the percentage chance of winning based on
if I
what?
might be permitted to be somewhat cynical, since
Whenever you're not
pollsters have found it difficult to get elections right, they have moved from percentage chance of winning or whatever, no, from votes to percentage chance of winning. You can't have a 10%, 15% chance of winning unless Trump shoots a few people. You can't have that change in 2 weeks. Frankly, I'm very suspect about all these polls. Small samples do not cover the swing states. So I think one has to look at these figures very, very carefully.
Yeah. You're right. They haven't had a great record, the pollsters in America so far. Some have.
It's not their fault merely because it's an extremely complicated market.
Yeah.
An extremely expensive market to poll.
Right. And if the pollsters have bad news for Kamala Harris, the betting market has even worse news for her. Betting markets, where people place hard cash on who they think will win, are often considered to be better at forecasting election results than opinion polls. Apart from putting their money where their mouth is and perhaps not allowing their political biases to intervene as much as perhaps pollsters or others do, the betting markets also take into account opinion poll data anyway, plus a host of other social, political, and other factors. Now, the betting markets have seen a spectacular change in the 2 weeks of October. Kamala Harris's chance of winning has dropped from 50% in the early part of the 2 weeks down to only 42% chance of winning in the third week of October. On the other hand, Trump's chances of becoming the next president shot up from 49% to 58%. The bottom line is that according to the betting market, Trump now has a 16% higher chance than Kamala Harris of becoming the next president of America. That's quite a major difference between polls and the betting markets.
Yes, because the betting markets are very erratic, often driven by individuals. So one doesn't know, I think, to depend upon...
You're right.
The fact that they give better results than opinion polls, there is a question of causality and coincidence. So I would not depend too much on the betting market.
I mean, causality and correlation and causation.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Being a pollster, I notice a little bit of a bias there. So the sudden spike in Trump's chances has been widely publicized by his supporters, especially with tweets by the owner of Twitter, now of course called X, the influential billionaire Elon Musk, all of which may additionally help Trump in the campaign. However, the brilliant data scientist and economist Rajiv Sethi of Columbia University, New York, has recently pointed out that the spike in betting odds may have occurred because of a large, non-typical $25 million bet for Trump. There's still some time to go for Election Day in America. That's on the 5th of November. So perhaps we should all be mindful of that well-known adage, which Dorab once pointed out 20, 30 years ago, that a week is a long time in politics.